Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
The Glen is often cited as one of the classics of North American road racing. Despite modernization, it retains many of its old-school qualities. Long, fast-sweeping corners, limited runoff, and super-fast straights. Let's see who's brave enough to keep their foot in it as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 entry class, live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and tonight we have Cameron Auburn on social media with Ryan Bauer producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Awards for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at 4Porsche.com or follow them on Instagram at Porsche Exchange. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. Now, as we take a glance at this track, it might not look too complicated from above, but I can tell you the high speeds certainly make it something to watch out for. The 12 turns around this circuit are going to be tricky. It's all very fast sweepers other than a scant few that might slow the car down a little bit more. And many of them have quite a bit of camber in them, which with it being kind of an old school track, you don't see that as much in modern tracks, really with a lot of banking on road courses. But this one definitely allows you to carry a lot of speed because of that. Watch out for the inner loop up at the top. It's going to be a popular place to attempt passes, but you don't have to brake as much as you would normally expect. And those curbs can often be an issue. So overall, it's high speed, but it's also high reward if you can manage to get the risks right out there. Now, looking at the championship in this series, it's a bit of an odd one because the entry class is essentially introductory. So you have drivers that kind of come and go, but they still keep track of this over the course of the season. Right now, Jeffrey Gardner, who is here in today's race, is leading the points, but we don't have Mark Collingwood, unfortunately. We do have Jean McLuhan, and she has got quite a bit of I rating to back her up. So I'm not sure if she's going to be around for the last one or not, but she has quickly climbed up the order despite coming in a little bit later than some, missing the first 2 races, as well as the last one at Hockenheimring. So she could be a serious threat, although she didn't do too well in the sprint race, which we'll talk about in a little bit later. And before we get to the racing, just a quick reminder that PCA Sim Racing's social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. So we have already had the sprint race. We're just going to be giving you the feature tonight. And as I said, Jean McLuhan, unfortunately, though fast and had a very good start to that sprint race, took the lead away down to the first corner in a brilliant 3-wide move. Unfortunately, found the car wrecked late on with an incident with Cigar de Juan there in the 501. Not sure if those two have had a chance to talk that one out yet, but it took both of them out of the lead and handed it over to Evan Smogor in the number 2 machine, who wound up being the only B-class driver in the top 8, essentially. Top 7 to finish above that 7th position. For if you're wondering, you'll see that the B class drivers have an I rating above 1,000, and the A class drivers have an I rating below 1,000. Here is your starting order for our feature race. It is going to be Evan Smogor starting on the top spot with Rex Jarawala in the 2nd position. Then it's going to be Jeff Gardner starting P3 and Danon Fairburn in P4. Jim Martin starts 5th. He's going to be flanked by Manuel Goncalves in the 6th position. Gene McLuhan was actually able to gather back up to 7th after being well towards the back, even past 2 cars at the very end as they had a wreck in the final corner. Dave Douglas will start from 8th, and Russell Elizondo will be P9. Then it's Cigar de Juan rounding out your top 10. Esther Nix will be in 11th, and Greg King will be 12th. Todd Jen and Michael Brodigan, I don't believe, partook in the sprint race, and they aren't showing up here as part of the 12 that are gridding up, so don't expect them to be a part of this as we take off on our shortened pace lap here at Watkins Glen and get ready to go for 40 minutes of racing. Do expect a pit stop during this race for fuel. Might not necessarily need tires, although you can take them if you want. But with a 40-minute race, not anticipating there'll be enough time for the drivers as they get a splash of fuel to try and take fresh rubber on. Though it could help you if you sacrifice a bit of that time and you find that they're starting to go away from you. We'll see if anybody makes that decision regardless. It certainly will be a bit of a toss-up as we wait for the green flag up at the front. And there it is. Evan Smogor is off, and so is Rex Jarawala. It's got a much better start coming down into turn 1. Evan might lose this lead. Oh, 4 wide coming into there. And once again, it is Gene McLuhan, who looks like she has gotten herself a fair good set of brakes on that car. That is up to 3rd position into the first turn. But look to the outsides, fighting side by side. That was Danon Fairburn, who unfortunately misses out there up through the S's. Meanwhile, Cigar de Juan also trying to chase Gene through. Remember, he was the one that Gene had the contact with. Down into the inner loop here for the first time on board with DeJuan. I am mighty familiar with him as he races in the Porsche Owners Club series over on my channel on GSRC, and usually fares pretty well over there. He's looked fast today, but unfortunately he's going to try to avoid the accidents here for a good result. Gene almost making contact, starting to lose the car, and Cigar de Juan is going to get involved in it. Maybe just narrowly avoids it and gets around Gene's spinning car. Danon Fairburn gets both the positions back after losing them in the first part of the lap. Wow, this was an interesting start to this one. Lots of dramas. Unfortunately, looks like Goncalves did lose the car for some reason. It is in pit lane. Not sure what happened there. We'll try and find out a little bit later. Here's Cigar's view, and he sees it happening. He thinks maybe he can get to the inside, to the outside. The car changing direction a little bit as it goes, and there goes Danon, just absolutely dicing through the pair of them. Let's see from Fairburn's perspective here. Sees it unfolding. Had a little bit more time to react, and that made the difference for the 11 car. That puts him up into P3. Oh, Rex is down into pit lane. That is a black flag. Rex Jarawala, unfortunately, looks like maybe got a black flag for jumping the start there, I think. So that is unfortunate. So I guess maybe taking off a little bit too quickly there across the line. And as for Brodigan, by the way, information on that, his internet connection was not behaving, so he has been given a DQ for not having a solid enough connection. They want drivers to be able to race without fear of having some net code with their competitors. Meanwhile, down the backstretch, Smogor still leads with DeJuan in 2nd. Fairburn is in 3rd. Not sure when DeJuan got into that P2. He missed that, as Elizondo is in 4th, and McLuhan is trying to play catch-up in P5. In fact, here comes another spot for Gene. She's going to try and dive on Elizondo. Pinches her right down to the bottom, but she manages to find her way through. That's going to be P4. I have to give her credit. She is very brave out there And as I said, a lot of I-rating to back it up. Nearly 4,000. For those that aren't familiar with iRacing, when you get to about an average driver, you're talking 2,000 to 2,500 in most cases. So when you're up to 4,000, you're starting to put down some heat on the track. And Jean is certainly showing it as we watch from Elizondo's perspective here in the 101, having been overtaken. That's Danon now, who's been slotted down into the third position after he briefly was able to get forward. And I just remembered, I was wondering where that spot came from for Dewan. That was Jawala taking his black flag, who's back out on the track, by the way. So a lot happening out here, and it's just me in the booth tonight. So a lot to keep track of out there as they come onto the front stretch once again. And it looks like McLuhan is already on the back of Fairburn. Oof, once again, car looks strong on the brakes as we come back to Greg King instead. And this is for the 7th position on Jeff Gardner. Now, they just went by a car coming back onto the track, and I'm trying to make out who that was that was just exiting out there, because I think that came out in front of them. That may have been a lapped car. Yeah, that was Manuel Goncalves, who has come out after he had his pit stop. McLuhan here, watching from on board, still chasing Fairburn, unable to make the move quite yet. And Elizondo's watching with greedy eyes, thinking maybe I could get this spot back. Way wide for both of them, but they keep it on the course. Coming down into the chute this time. McLuhan once again getting close to Danon, who is going to leave the door open, and you don't do that when Jean is around. She once again gets her foot in the door, and this is becoming quite the staple for that 992 machine. Just repeatedly outbraking almost everybody out there. No wonder she was looking at a potential win in that sprint race. Can she try and chase down Evan Smogor? He's already got a lead of about 7 seconds right now. Fairburn behind, tries to repeat the feat and make some contact into the side of Jean McLuhan. She goes off course to try to get the car together. I don't see a black and orange flag, so I think she got away without much damage, if any. So now Elizondo is into P3. Fairburn is back into 4th. Wonder if the stewards are going to take a look at that and hand out a flag. Oh, and we just missed it, but Danon made contact with the wall off the final corner there. I think it was just a glancing blow, but it definitely cost himself a few car lengths. Let's take one more look at both the contact. And I hope we can hold on this replay until he touches the wall here. Yeah, there's the little bump. And good job by Jean for holding onto the car, keeping it from spitting out, doesn't hit anything. But I'm sure she's a little frustrated after all she's had to do to try to work her way forward now twice in this race. And here is the contact. Watch the outside wall here on the left-hand side. Just a little doink. That looked a lot softer from this angle from what I saw before. So I think Fairburn's going to get away with it. But he's got McLuhan coming up quick from behind, and I don't think she's going to be terribly happy with Danon here. So this could be a little feisty for this 4th position. All this is happening behind Dewan, who is trying to chase down Smogor, which, let me check the lap times here. Does look like Cigar is quicker right now, so that could be interesting up at the top of the field. Meanwhile, these drivers fighting for essentially the 3rd position come up into the heel of the boot. Elizondo leading the train. It goes back through about 3 cars down between Fairburn and McLuhan, though we do get glimpses in the background, it looks like, of Jim Martin, Jeff Gardner, and Greg King, who are sticking with it. Don't need to go to a bit. Esther Nix has had another off, unfortunately, and is off the course. Jim Martin giving up some spots as well. And, oh, Danon Fairburn indeed did get a black flag for his incident. So he is heading into pit lane, giving up valuable positions. So I believe that was for the contact with McLuhan, who is now promoted back into 4th place, trying to chase down Elizondo. Remember I said it was 7 seconds before? It's up to 12, and we're already a quarter of the way through the race. Jean's got a mountain to climb. Greg King here, still chasing on Jeff Gardner. Martin having given up both of these spots. Honestly, I don't think that's a bad decision. I think Jim watched how things went in the previous race. Remember I said that it was only one B-class car in the top 7, and that was our winner? Well, that was mostly down to those B-class cars wrecking and having problems. So theoretically, the faster drivers gave up easy positions just due to the fact that they did not keep it on the island. So a driver deciding he doesn't want to get involved in any drama, Jim Martin might find himself higher up than he would have expected if he had tried to fight it here. We'll see how he does as the laps carry on. Watch on board with him here on his GT3 Cup car. A little bit wide there in front of him for Jeff Gardner, but he's going to be able to cut back. These cars are known in real life for being sort of, I wouldn't say entry level, but these are when things are getting serious for most drivers. You start to see professionals really cut their teeth here and come up through the ranks. So the Cup car is kind of known for their own series, the Porsche Super Cup, with all its various versions on each of the continents. And what's interesting about them, despite them being kind of lower tier, I say in air quotes, is they're very raw. There are pretty much no driver aids on these things. It's all your right foot to try and accelerate and brake and make sure that you can get to the finish as quickly as possible. Does have the flappy paddles, of course, but other than that, you don't have the traction control to try and help you. Smogor up here doesn't need all those fancy gadgets. He is currently up in the lead by about 3.5 seconds as he's got Dewan chasing him. There he is right there in the bright yellow and blue. 3.7 seconds between them, and he was another half second faster last lap than Evan was, so he is gaining. We'll see if he's got enough laps to try and do it. So back with McLuhan now. Elizondo just in front of him, and lap traffic. That's going to be Danon Fairburn, ironically, that is in front of him, and he's been blinking a little bit himself. He's going to pull out of the way and does a nice job knowing that this is no longer his fight. He lets them through. So back down through the laces of the boot now. We've seen Jean make some spectacular dives. Is she still going to keep trying those, or is she going to back it off a little bit, knowing that she's much quicker? We'll find out soon enough, I'm pretty sure. Good run coming out of the toe of the boot, up through the sole, and into the heel. No look this time by that bright yellow and green car. So Elizondo will retain the podium for the time being. This is looking a little bit more like you'd expect. Top 4 right now are all B-class cars, so over 1,000 I rating. Down into the penultimate turn here. Remember, they do have a pit stop to worry about, but they're probably just about getting to that pit window at this stage, although a big mistake from Russell opens the door, but despite the inside being open, Jean is not able to get the car down there. She has to check up big time. I think that was a big opportunity wasted. Another mistake there coming down to the first turn for Russell. Jean still behind him, though. She's going to be kicking herself for missing out on a great chance to just blow by and be able to run away. She started this race 7th, so she's up 3 right now. But Russell is up 6. He's done even better on that front. Look at him clobber those curbs. Both of them doing their best to try and take as much as they dare, but they got to watch out, because if you hit them too hard, you can bounce the car and wind up going off course. Down to the inside, coming into the chute. Once again, Jean McLuhan going to try and make the pass, but is denied by Russell. Jean gets another bite at it, this time if she wants. She does want it, but she's not close enough. So another lapped car, I think, up ahead of him. Dave Douglas going to be the next one up the road. He could play a part here. Whoa, there's another big look. Jean's so eager now, suddenly. And we're getting word that Fairburn is being called in for his connection problems. We're going to go 3 wide, a little bit of an attempt, and Jean tips around the lapped car. I fear that also might wind up as a penalty for that 992, unfortunately. So they usually, it doesn't matter if it's a lapped car or not. Often they look pretty dimly on the car. Turning another one. So now back to Greg King. chasing on Jeff Gardner. Gene is able to keep going, but Russell is now about 4 seconds up the road. This is the battle for fifth. Down into the 90. Another place with quite a bit of banking going into there. But they do have the modern incarnation of a lot of road courses there with all that paved runoff to the outside. King getting a great run. Coming up the hill now. You need that momentum. You are flat to the floor all the way through here. All the way until you get to the inner loop. There's a protection of the inside by Jeff Gardner. Trying to dissuade Greg King. But looks like Greg's not close enough. Behind them, that is Jim Martin still, who we saw give up that position a little bit earlier. Is Jim willing to get involved, or is he also once again going to let those two settle it out and see what happens rather than trying to stick his nose in? Not quite close enough currently. Just a few car lengths away as they all head down into the 180 degrees of the toe of the boot. A little bit wide there for Jim Martin, actually, but he cuts back nicely to try and square off the exit. Meanwhile, Greg King gets a good run, too. Jeff Gardner just hovering off the racing line, maybe again trying to keep Greg from trying to do anything down into the turn, not thinking he's close enough to attempt to pass here. Still not completely fully committed to the racing line here, Jeff Gardner. Almost called him Tony Gardner there. Be interesting if Tony was racing in this league. As they come through the penultimate turn now. This is where you need a good exit in this final corner. Let's see what Greg's got underneath him. Oh, very good run, but again, second time we've seen a car come off of that final turn with no place to take the speed. Big look down to the inside anyways, down into the 90. Can't get Jeff off the racing line. He's not taking it. He's going to chop down to where he needs to be. Martin had a little bit of a hiccup there, just unable to get the car moving out of the first turn. He's going to lose a second or two coming up the hill because of that. Meanwhile, I think Greg's got a great chance here, but look at Jeff. Just making sure that he has not got the inside line coming into it. They're going to go wheel to wheel into the corner. And Greg King decides he cannot risk it at this stage. He backs out. Back out of the outer loop now. And down the hill. Not missing anything up at the front, by the way. Smogor is still ahead by actually 5 seconds. He's pulled away from Cigar Dewan. Here we've got Cigar's perspective. Last few laps. Looks like, yeah, Evans picked it up a bit and has responded to Cigar, so can't really seem to get to tabs with that number 2. There is your leader right there. He's going to carry on, not stopping this time. His pit stop's going to be important because getting your strategy right, getting the amount of fuel right, and also hitting your marks is something that you definitely have to have once you graduate out of entry class and head to one of the other 4 classes that they have. Those would be Challenge, Sport, Club, and Pro that we cover regularly here on Podium Esports. Back to the battle between King and Gardner. Run down the front stretch. Gardner not covering it off this time. Greg's looking like he's got a better opportunity. A little bit timid on the brakes, though. Does manage to keep Jeff from being willing to chop down as much as we saw before. That compromises his exit, but doesn't look like they're going to be fully side by side. Greg thinks about it for a second, cuts back across. He's going to get the slipstream. And apologies for the small interruption. I can commiserate with the drivers that have found themselves booted for internet connection because the Midwest weather has decided they wanted to do the same to me. Anyways, 20 minutes left now in this race as we follow that never-ending battle between King and Gardner, with Martin following, but it looks like a lot farther behind at this stage. Up the hill, it's still Smokor leading this race. We're watching Dwan try to catch him, but he's been steadily falling away. This is the perspective from that number 2 machine, hailing from central Indiana as he brings it down into the toe of the boots. It's been pretty smooth sailing, but knock on wood, cross your fingers, toes, and eyes, that commentator's curse does not take place, and that he can have a good pit stop here before we get going once again. That 6-second lead should be pretty handy in this situation. That's enough that if he has some sort of hiccup in the pit stop, he should at least be able to stay ahead, if not be close to Dwan when he gets back out. Curious to see who we're going to see pitting. Expect them to go no farther than about 10 minutes to go. Maybe a little farther than that if need be. Gene McLuhan currently up to P3 now. Don't believe we've seen a penalty for her, which has been interesting. Glad to see, though, that if it was deemed as a racing incident, that she can carry on. Meanwhile, Elizondo sits back in 4th. And here we see that 101 car having lost that position to McLuhan for, gosh, this is probably the 3rd or 4th time during this race. It's been quite the back and forth. 12 cars in this field, only 8 remain on the lead lap right now, and they're starting to separate from one another quite a bit more than what we saw before. So maybe at this point, this is going to be more about survival, getting yourself to the finish. Smokor is going to have some lap traffic, another skill that you definitely need to start to learn here at the entry class. You already saw what happens when you don't quite gauge it right. When McLuhan had that contact a little bit earlier, Smokor is going to give a nice wide run around the outside there through turn 9. Doesn't need to really risk it and get close to that lapped car. Can afford to give away a little bit to Dwan at this stage. Just 16 minutes left to go on the clock, and they do take a bit to get around here. It's almost 2 minutes. So expect probably in the realm of about 8 or 9 more laps. There is Dwan. That's the visual on the gap there. About the length of the short chute between turn 1 and into the S's. As I was mentioning before, Dwan comes out of the Porsche Owners Club series, another Porsche-based series that I cover, and has been looking pretty quick lately, taking podiums, and I believe he did get a win over there. I don't have my stats at the ready for that one. But right now, he's just following in the tire tracks of Esther Nix. Just trying to bring this home to what looks like a likely second place. There is Esther right now. Nix, of course, not on the same lap as you would guess, since that is not our leader. And as I mentioned, Cigar running second place. One of those shorter little straightaways here where it can be difficult trying to lap the traffic sometimes. We'll see where He catches Esther. Looks like it's going to be here between 9 and 10. And into the penultimate turn, they let Cigar through. Nice professional driving there. It's always a good idea to try and respect cars that are lapping you, even though it's not required that you leap out of their way. If you're not battling anybody, might as well make sure that you two play it safe. Still at about 6.5 seconds between P1 and P2. Can't seem to get close enough. Rex down here in 9th, started up much higher up, unfortunately. But it is not to be, at least today. Maybe at Sebring in 2 weeks' time. Because I'd say that Rex was looking pretty fast. Unfortunately, was not able to continue it. Came home with a 2nd place in that sprint race. Swogor on board with our leader, up to nearly 7 seconds over Dewan now. Very curious where Evan is going to be put once he graduates, because it seems like he's got a very good head on his shoulders. A lot of speed as well. He wasn't the quickest in the qualifying, or honestly either the races, I would say, but he's been the most consistent where it counts. While the others fall away around him, he's looking to potentially take a win in that number 2 machine. Hardest charger, though, right now is Cigar Dewan, up 8 positions. He's close on that because Greg King is up 7. But considering that first lap, it was Cigar and Gene that were just slicing through the field. And Cigar made the better of it. Now has about 16 seconds over Gene. Out of the drivers out on track, we mentioned the Clean Driver Award a little bit earlier on. We only have 2 drivers that still have 0 incidents on the track. Greg King is one of them. All that speed, up 7 spots, and hasn't had an off-track spin, contact, anything up to this point. Evan is the other driver on a 0X. So again, there's that old adage, safe is fast. And I'd say that both Evan and Greg are proving that one today. Gonna watch from on board here with the helmet cam of Evan Swogor. Still has about 6 more laps to go here, 6 or 7. We'll have to see, because last race it was tight. It was about 10 seconds left on the clock when he crossed. And that can have an effect on the fueling, obviously. You want to put enough in to get to the finish. Now, iRacing has done some things, not this build, but the previous build, that have helped drivers out in that sense, that basically does the calculations for you, and you can tell it how safe or aggressive you want it to be on its estimations, which is a very handy feature. It used to be that you needed third-party software to do something like that. Now it's all handled right within iRacing. Not everybody has a team behind them to try and do that math for them. A lot of times, I know back when I at least still raced somewhat frequently and did series that had pit stops, I'd kind of figured out how much fuel I usually did and had a set amount that I would fill up with a planned gauged time of a pit stop, though it was flexible, and you'd pop it in, hope that you had done your math right, just kind of watch it a little bit if you had the mental space to try and fiddle with that in the middle of it, and watch and see if you are actually hitting the numbers that you think you're hitting or should be hitting, and then maybe try and change it a little bit if you dare. But in this case, now they've got all kinds of gadgets within the iRacing software to help you get to the finish. Still haven't seen anybody pit, though, for scheduled stops. Oh, speak of the devil, Jeff Gardner. Looks like he's going to be our first one. So maybe a little bit farther than I anticipated. Thought it was going to be about 10 minutes to go before we'd see drivers take pit stops. So will Evan also head in here? It is rather common in iRacing, I will say, for 10 top cars, sports cars on the roadside, to tend to try to go long. Yeah, he's coming in. He's pitting in. So traditionally, the idea is to run the car out of fuel, fill it back up as much as you need to get to the finish and no more, and sprint away. Spend less time with heavy fuel on the car. Cigar de Juan will not pit in this time. He's going to take the lead away from Evan. What about Jean McLuhan? She's not pitting in. She's going to carry on. So definitely a wider window than I had anticipated. Sometimes that can be down to the pace of the drivers. Sometimes if they are not running as fast, with this being the entry class, maybe drivers here not using up as much fuel as we've seen in some of the faster classes. Evan in and out, 8.7 seconds. That looks like a pretty decent stop. The only other driver we have for reference, Jeff Gardner, in and out in 9.1. Now we got Greg King pitting in. Only other driver that is taking it on this lap. Waiting on Martin to come by. I think he's the last one on the lead lap to really go by on that. And Martin is coming in. Oh, but he's taking very slow down through the pit entry lane and into the cones. So he's going to lose a lot of time there, unfortunately. Granted, it seems like he kept the car safe, but I think he's given up a lot there. Cigar de Juan, our current leader, coming around here on lap 18. Will he pit in this time? Is this as far as he can go? Don't usually see pit stops over in the POC series. There's only a handful of endurance races where they will go long enough that the car has to come in and take stops, and he is pitting in. Now we wait to see where Evan comes out in relation. Unless things are seriously botched here, I don't think de Juan's going to be able to overtake him. Jean McLuhan now, waiting for her to pit in, and yes, she is coming in. That looked a little bit more like what we usually anticipate for those pit stops, of trying to take it through that final corner. Evan off of that same turn at speed, not pitting in. He's already taken his fuel. De Juan just finishing his up, and Evan is clearly passed, and that is easily back to the lead for the number 2 with only 6.5 minutes left on the clock. He's looking good. Where's Cigar come out? 8.3 seconds, slightly faster in his stall, and about a similar amount faster cone to cone. So pretty close to one another. Comes down to about 5.5 seconds now that he's on the throttle. Looks like Gene's back out on track. Ooh, whoa. Jean McLuhan's pit stop was 6.8 seconds. That is very, very short. Jim Martin has matched her and done a little better at 6.5. That's slightly disconcerting, though. Hopefully that will be enough. She's going to gain a fair bit of time. Not enough, though. I mean, it'd be one thing if she was about 2 seconds behind Cigar, and it'd be worth trying to take that gamble. She's 16 seconds behind, so she's not going to get anything here if she is short. So hopefully she's done the math right. If she had to do the math, like I just said, the sim may have been handling that for her. Maybe she just had it more aggressive. So Evan up here at the very top. Let's see when he's going to be coming by. So 1:48 lap times for quick laps here for Evan Smogor. So that's going to be looking at 2 laps being somewhere in the 3:38 range, I believe, 3:36. And he crossed with about 4:50 to go. So that might actually be 4 laps. Again, that's going to look really close here, I think. Keep an eye on it next time through. Dewan now still about 6 seconds back. McLuhan crosses the line. Another 17 seconds, but Gene is on the podium. And in fact, this is looking much more like what we thought, as I mentioned earlier. Top 5 are all B-class drivers. Highest A-class driver is Jeff Gardner winning down there. He's about 1:15 behind Evan currently. Across the line, our drivers go as we check back in now with Evan. Last lap for him, actually his fastest of the race, a 48.161. That is not the fastest lap though. Cigar Dewan holds that at a 48.152. Very tight between them, less than 100th of a second. See if Evan can pick it up just that little bit more and steal that away from him or not. So yeah, 3:36 is what we're looking for on the clock, and we are already past that. So this is 2 to go this time by. Two more circuits around. He already took the win in the sprint race, did Evan. And he's looking to go back to back. His qualifying was not bad, actually, I should say. He did qualify second. Pole went to Cigar Dewan, which is another bonus. But in this case, more of the points are handed out here in the feature. This is where you want the good results. In the case of the 501 and the 992, for them to be able to come back as they have and get the good results here in the feature, it may not be a win, but a second and third will do them well. Getting close now to the white flags. They're about halfway through this lap as well. Does look like Greg King. Is he catching on Elizondo? Last lap for Elizondo, 51.3. King, a 50.4. Yeah, we might have a race on our hands. It is currently 2 seconds. They've got 2 laps to go here as they cross the line now. So that is definitely enough time if he's a second lap faster, which it is looking like he's somewhere in that realm, that he could catch him and try to pass him. Oh, and somebody missed the inner loop there. That looks to be Manuel Goncalves. I think he's going to get away with it, but he's got a slowdown penalty. He's down in 11th. He's the last car running right now. We've only lost Danon Fairburn, who unfortunately his internet connection completely dropped on him. I feel you, Danon, on that one. And unlike me, he has not been able to return. All right, white flag is out for Evan Smogor. 7.7 seconds between himself and his nearest rival of Cigar Dewan. Just has to keep it on the island. And he's got back-to-back wins in the sprint and the feature here at Watkins Glen. And they need to check even on points. Yeah, so he's only taken part in 2 races before this one. 2 events, really. Interlagos and Hockenheim, and both looked mighty fast with a perfect score at Hockenheim as well. Evans starting to show a bit of a trend here. And again, it makes me wonder, what class did they put a guy like this in? He's clearly got some speed, and he's consistent. Is he good enough as high as club? Surely they're not going to put him in pro right away. Don't think he's quite up there. But he does have about a 2300 I rating, which is decent. Nothing super to write home about, but it isn't always super indicative of your actual speed and your consistency, because not everybody does official racing, which is the only place you can earn I ratings such as that. And as he comes out of turn 9, back onto the main course here, where the Cup cars run, the NASCAR Cup cars, he just has 2 more corners to go down through the penultimate turn. And Evan Smogor is indeed going to get back-to-back wins in the sprint and in the feature here at Watkins Glen. Looks like Cigar de Juan did not have the speed to chase him down, but he should be proud of his second place. Gene McLuhan well behind. This is a driver I think maybe has really good things on the horizon, but she's got to watch out for her aggressiveness out on track because it looks like it bit her a couple times today. She's still going to get a well-earned third. Greg King is going to be ahead of Elizondo. Did he take that spot? Was it? I think we said it was Greg chasing down Elizondo, didn't we? I think that's what it was. There's a lot that's been happening here, so trying to remember. But regardless, Greg is up 8 spots, tying Cigar de Juan for positions gained here. Nicely done by the 13. Elizondo going to be about 4 seconds behind him in 5th place. Jeff Gardner and Jim Martin are going to be the last 2 to finish on the lead lap. Gardner actually our winner in the A class, unless Martin can catch him by 5 seconds in a few corners, which is possible if we have a mistake from Jeff, but I think he knows what's at stake here. I think he's going to be proud of himself, although he's down 3 from where he started this race. Doesn't matter. He's still the highest classed A-class driver here today with a win in class, but a 6th place overall, and Martin comes home behind him, last driver on the lead lap, in the 7th position. So I believe that will take us to a short break here. We'll come back with driver interviews as well as the unofficial results, so stick around. Brake a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen for the penultimate event here in the entry class. Evan Smogor smoked the field. It was a double win for him in the sprint and the feature. Cigar de Juan managed to come home in 2nd in the feature after he had a bit of a problem there in the first race, where actually he was looking at a potential win. He and Gene McLuhan came together. Gene actually came home 3rd in this race as well, as Greg King was 4th, climbing up from 12th, and Russell Elizondo finished P5. Jeff Gardner, the highest of the A-class drivers, was P6, and Jim Martin was 7th. Then it was Rex Jarawala, who was the first car lap down in 8th. Esther Nix was 9th, and Dave Douglas P10. Manuel Goncalves was 11th, and Danon Fairburn rounds after 12 starters in the feature race. I believe we are going to be talking to our winner, see what he thinks about those back-to-back wins, because certainly looked impressive from our perspective. Evan Smogor in the number 2 machine, not only keeping it safe, but looking pretty fast, especially in that feature where Cigar could not catch up to him. As we've got him now in the booth with us. Evan, congratulations on back-to-back wins. Yes, the sprint was handed to you a little bit, but I'd say you backed it up in that feature race. Nobody could get close to you.
Yeah. I was sad to see it, honestly. I was looking for a good battle. Something happened technology-wise on my end in the first race where I kind of like fell off for a second. I got a weird slowdown, so I had to serve that, and I was hoping to catch back up and put on a show. But I was sad to see them go. And the feature race was just pedal to the metal.
Obviously, the goal of entry class is for the drivers to try and graduate and join one of the other classes elsewhere in the PCA. With how you've been performing in your 3 races you've done, where are you kind of expecting or aiming to get to?
I would love to challenge myself in the pro class. I know that some of the guys in there, and they're all great people, so it would just be great to race with them. But I'm happy to race with anybody from PCA. This group is awesome. Everybody's super friendly, and it's just been great.
It certainly has looked like everybody was having a great time out there. Now, the final round is going to be at Sebring in the RSR. Coming over from the Cup car with how raw this thing is that a welcome addition, getting some of those little toys back in the car?
I got to tell you, I love the RSR and I love Sebring, so bring it on.
Oh, that'll be great. Glad to hear. Well, hopefully you will have some good results. Congratulations. Anybody you want to thank that helped put you on the top spot today?
Yeah, everybody, shout out to Flying Lion Racing, JR Gregory, Chad Dick, the group over there for even introducing me to this. I didn't even know this existed. And so thank you guys for putting me on, and thanks for being a great team.
That was Evan Smogor, our winner in both the sprint and the feature, as it looks like we've got Cigar Dewan ready to talk to us here. Cigar, this is a bit of unfamiliar territory for you and I. But excellent work out there. Second place. It looked like, though, you were struggling to keep up with Evan. Did you have anything else in it?
No, that was everything. I think I might have used up a little bit too much tire at the start, and then it's a common theme with me. There's always one corner on the track that I'm doing different, and there's probably some pace there. I don't know which corner it is, most likely turn 1 actually, but I didn't have any more. And for a moment there, I was starting to catch Evan, but I saw the gap start to go down almost 4/10 a lap, and I was like, hey, there might be a race on here. And then all of a sudden he started pulling away, and I just couldn't do anything.
You and Gene were also trying to fight for the win in the sprint race. Have you two had a chance to talk about the incident on the backstretch?
No, we haven't. He isn't on the voice channel, and so I couldn't chat with him. I did send him a DM, and I apologize for it. I think it was my fault. I did look back at the replay. I think I could have just left him a little bit more room. But yeah, that was a real bummer. And then to see that I was going to start at the back wasn't super encouraging, but I think it kind of worked out for me at least. I'm still sorry for Gene.
Well, we'll see if you two can get together maybe in a bit to chat it out. If you hadn't have started from the back in that feature, do you think it would have been a different story between you and Evan?
Honestly, I was finding it pretty difficult to overtake around here. So I think if anything, it'd just be more entertaining for everybody else. But maybe I could have tried to push him to make a mistake or something. But I think he probably had it.
Well, I'm glad to get to see a little bit more of you around iRacing, and
likewise.
Congratulations on the podium. Anybody you want to thank before you go?
Yeah, as usual, my wife. We haven't had dinner yet, so thank you.
All right. Well, we'll let Cigar go off to enjoy a nice meal as the 501 took second place in the feature race. And up next, do we actually have Jean ready to talk to us? Because I do not see her at the ready. Usually we thought we were going to be talking to Jean McLuhan, so was hoping we could get her side of the story as well. So looks like, unfortunately, we're just going to have to close it up. So maybe another time. In the meantime, make sure and join us on Wednesday, June 28th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern, because we'll be back with the sport class. And we'd like to thank our sponsors for Series 10, the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. Also, big thanks to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. None of this is possible without those behind the scenes promoting esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.